Welcome everybody to another episode of Spill the Tea, that show on YouTube that gives you a little info how to prepare yourselves for college and beyond. I'm one of your hosts, Keisha Savory. Joining me is my partner in crime, Bam.
Nicole Gurley, hello.
Yes, and today is a very special episode for us. I'm really excited about this one. I know I say I'm excited for all of them, but really this is a great one because we, as a school counselor, we get tons of questions, especially in Florida. If you didn't know where we were, in Central Florida, these are some of our top private schools joining us today. So without further ado, you don't want to hear from me. Let me go ahead and start to get them to talk about themselves. So first up, from Rollins College. Give it up for Brooke Adams.
Thanks for having me. My name is Brooke. I am one of the admission counselors at Rollins, which is a small private liberal arts college in Winter Park, Florida, which is just about a 10-minute drive from the city of Orlando. So we're right smack in the middle of the state. I've been working in the office for about 7 years and I am a Rollins alum. So it's always fun to work for your alma mater. Rollins is really just a beautiful campus. We've been ranked the #1 most beautiful campus in the nation. It's got Spanish Mediterranean architecture, cobblestone streets. It's right on a lake. It's really, really beautiful. We pride ourselves on a very intimate academic approach. So we've got just over 2,000 students total. It's a pretty small setting. Our average class size is about 17. Student to faculty ratio is 10:1. So again, very intimate approach, all discussion-based learning, no lecture style classes at Rollins. And another big part of our culture at Rollins is that we're really looking to create global citizens and responsible leaders. So lots of ways to become a global citizen and a responsible leader. Some of that involves our study abroad opportunities and community service opportunities. So I'm sure we're going to talk a lot more about all of this, but in a nutshell, that's a little bit about Rollins.
Awesome. Thank you, Brooke, for joining us. And next, we have from Stetson University. Okay, is it Victoria Webster? Do we want to add the other part to it as well?
Yeah, well, it's Webster Perez. I think I have the longest name at the university because I also have 3 middle names. It's crazy, overzealous parents. Hi, Victoria. I'm the Associate Director for Undergraduate Admissions at Stetson University. Even though I'm only 25, I've been in higher education for 16 years. Definitely not 25, but like 10. I know, they're like, wait a second, that math doesn't work.
Like, she looks right for 25.
No. Right on. No, but I've actually worked in higher education and admissions for the last 16 years. I was a first-gen college student and a first-generation American. So that definitely motivated me to want to work in admissions because my family didn't know what they were doing. And it took really kind people in admissions offices taking the time to explain everything, including translating for my German parents. So definitely that's something, it really touched me and I knew immediately that that was the path that I wanted to take. So to tell you a little bit about Stetson, we're actually the oldest private university in Florida. A really cool way to describe us is to say that we're a big, small school. And then people look at me like I'm crazy and don't understand contradictory words. What I mean by that is we have the blend of what you expect from a big public state university, but the experience of a small institution. We're actually one of the smallest Division I schools in the country. I think we're in the 5 smallest in the country. But what's really cool is you kind of get the mix of all the things you associate with large colleges. There's 17 Division I sports, over 140 clubs and organizations, over 100 degree programs, but you don't sacrifice an academically intimate environment. So average classes of about 20, 13:1 student to faculty ratio. So it's really fun because you get a blend of the 2 styles of education, but in an intimate academic setting. We are probably most known for our College of Law, currently ranks #1 in the country for trial advocacy. A lot of people find out about us because of the College of Law, as well as our School of Business Administration. That's 2 programs that definitely draw a lot of students from all over the world. But yeah, I'm excited to tell you guys more about Stetson.
Great.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And last, but certainly not least, and Poor guy is the only male that's with us today, but we are so excited to have him. So he's going to have to get a couple words in edgewise. Give it up for Bob Rowe from Florida Institute of Technology. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, Bob.
Technology is not always a good thing. That all being said, I'm also the only male in my house. I have 2 daughters, so I'm used to being outmanned. This is nothing new for me. So that all being said, well, thank you for having us today. Florida Institute of Technology, or Florida Tech. We're located in Melbourne, Florida. We're just about an hour and change from Orlando, just south of the Space Center. We are located in the 4th largest high-tech workforce in the country. That gives a huge advantage to our alumni for internships and co-ops. I'll talk about that in a little bit. I've been here at the university for about 35 years, so I'm definitely not the youngster in this group. I'm also an alumnus from Florida Tech, and I'm also the proud father of a Florida Tech grad who makes more money than he does. I love Father's Day. Okay. That all being said, what are some of the really important things you need to know about us? Well, number one, when we admit somebody, you are admitted directly into your degree program. There is no second-tiered hidden admissions process like impacted or limited access programs. So if you're an aerospace engineer, you start as an aerospace engineer launching rockets the first semester you're on campus. If you're an aeronautics student and learning to fly, you'll be flying the first week, not by yourself, but you will be flying. And if you're a marine biologist, we'll have you standing in 3 feet of muck somewhere. So we literally get you in your major day one. You do not wait 2 years to find out, is this what I want to do? You find out in about 2 weeks. Now, that's all important factors about that. We roughly right now about anywhere from 50 to 70% of our students graduate with either an internship or a co-op experience. They're averaging while they're doing those jobs anywhere from $15 to $30 per hour. My daughter made about probably, I think around $20,000 while doing her internship. Plus that experience got her another $5,000 a year in starting pay because she had a practical experience on her resume. The other thing that's really important is we do bachelor's, master's, and PhD programs. And a lot of you are saying, I'm just worried about a bachelor's degree right now. Why do I care about all that other stuff? Well, with our master's and bachelor's programs, you can get involved in graduate level research, which means you can be published. You know how to write grant proposals. It's an instant ticket into grad school. I had a friend of mine do that, and he got his master's and doctorate paid for up at Emory in Atlanta. Not a bad deal. And again, it gets you used to seeing all these things. And I think those are some of the really big factors. We've had 5 astronauts graduate from our program. We have 3 astronauts on our faculty right now. So this is rocket science, although we do offer business, psychology, communications, and aeronautics as well. But we're kind of known for our science and engineering, and we have about 15 different about 9 different engineering majors right now. So we'll move on to the questions, and I'll stop there.
That is great. So with so many different types of schools, I mean, obviously your 3 schools are completely different from each other. What is the best way for a student to find their best fit, as we call it? What is this way the student needs to find out where they fit in and what their best college options are?
I didn't know if you wanted to call on us or if you wanted us to volunteer.
Go right ahead, Victoria.
I actually love to address this question mainly because I started at one college and then transferred to another. And it's because, again, I mentioned before, as a first-gen student, my family really didn't know the research process. So a lot of it, we kind of put blinders on and we're just like, we know this name, let's talk to this school because we've heard this name before. What I typically tell families to do is you do want to, of course, look at schools that offer the majors you're interested in, but also that offer an environment that you know that you can explore. And I say that because just here at Stetson, 72% of students change their majors at at least once. So I do tell a student, you don't want to be a single factor decision-making, when it comes to looking at colleges, because if, let's say you chose a school just for that program, and then you decide you don't like that program, doesn't meet you in other ways. So typically I tell families, if you can make the time to visit, that is ideal. And I say that because for a lot of our students, this is going to become your home. Even if you're not a residential student living on campus, you're going to spend the bulk of your awake hours on the campus, in using the library, using the resources in organizations. So I typically tell families, try to visit your top 2 or 3 schools and really take the time to ask questions of current students, ask questions of faculty, find out the other support items there, and make sure that it's meeting you on multiple levels. And I say that with any college you're researching, you don't ever want a decision to be based on one factor. You want to make sure that the majority of things that you need are going to be available through that school. And I say that because as a D1 school, we have a lot of students coming to us because they want to play a sport. And I always tell them, I'm never putting the bad mojo out there, but what happens if you get injured? Does the school meet the things that you want beyond the sport? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that there are multiple levels of nurturing and support and welcoming community for you. So that's the number one piece of advice I give, especially because, a lot of us do have overlap. A lot of us have a lot of the same majors. It's about everything else really lining up and meeting you where you are.
Great. That was awesome.
Real quick, I wanted to add one thing to that. Also, when you go to visit a college, also check out the town the college is located in. Great, but you may not like the town it's located. So drive around, get a feel for what it's like. Real quickly with us, we have more alumni living in Melbourne, Florida area than anywhere else in the country because there's jobs here and they love the area. So local area out as well when you visit college.
Yes, definitely.
One other thing I'll just pop in about is one positive thing that has come out of kind of the coronavirus shutdown, all of this, is that all colleges now have a really robust virtual visit experience. So if you don't have the means to travel to visit the colleges that are on your list, definitely check out, the virtual tours. And there's so many opportunities, at least with Rollins, you can chat with a current student virtually. You can meet with me virtually, a financial aid counselor virtually, take a tour, do one of our open houses. Everything that you could do in person, you can probably do electronically. So definitely be sure to check that out if you don't have the means to necessarily visit all of the schools on your list.
Great. And going along with that though, is anyone doing face-to-face tours right now, or is everyone, we do see some yeses. So Rollins and Stetson and Florida Tech. Okay, so everyone is doing face-to-face tours on campus as well as virtual tours as well. Great, that's awesome to know.
That is.
Everybody to sign up ahead of time.
Okay.
Okay. It is awesome. I could say one great thing that came out of COVID is the fact that you have the resources to see the schools virtually. And then for you guys, at least you'll know who's coming on campus before they come on. You just set a schedule first. Now, speaking of your campuses, all right, what are some of the benefits of attending a private college? We have, of course, you always hear about the state universities, especially at this time of the year. If you're watching this at a different time, it's March Madness. So quite a few of our state universities are in there, not the Gators, but it's okay. But for you guys, what would you tell a student? I'll start with you, Bob. What would you tell a student some of the benefits are of attending a private school?
Well, you're going to hear from a lot of folks, and even the bigger schools will even say this, small class sizes. It's not really necessarily the class size, it's what's happening in those classes. Because, okay, you may get known by a couple of your faculty members, but here, they know when somebody isn't in class. Now that can be a downside if you like to skip class a lot. But with our students, they get to know their faculty right away. When they get ready to graduate, they have instant references. They've got alumni they can reach out to via faculty. I think those are huge advantages. I think the closeness of our students, we have like 3,500 undergraduates right now from all 50 states and about 100 different countries. Well, my My daughter's friends were all from Michigan, Maryland, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and California, and she never came home on the weekends, and we live 5 miles away. And she said, my friends never go home, why should I? There's that closeness I think you're going to find in the fabric of us, of Rollins, of Stetson, and a lot of the private schools in Florida. You may not know everybody, but people look familiar, and there's something nice. The other thing is, a lot of colleges, specifically us, we're very specific in our science and engineering majors, and that's 70% of our student population. That's what their passion is. So they're in with students that have the same passion as they do. Maybe some of the larger schools, you'll know the people in engineering, but not have any idea and know anybody over on the humanities side of the house. I think those are all things that are important. We get you there quicker is probably the thing about being a private school.
I'd love to piggyback on that. And you make such a great point about the relationships and what's happening inside the classroom. We like to call it academic intimacy. It's that ability to truly develop relationships and get to know people on an intimate level. You don't get talked at, you talk with. What our teachers actually always joke around and say is that on day 1, they know your name. On day 2, they know your personality, and by day 3, they know your tricks in a good way. It's I don't want to call it an accountability, because it's not like high school. It's not like they're calling parents and saying, hey, so-and-so didn't come to class. It's the fact that someone knows you exist, cares about your success, and is equally invested in it. So, I love, like he said, you're not really going to disappear into the wallpaper. It's not an auditorium of 200, 300 students. It's very much an environment where you're recognized pretty much same day. People will know your name. It's a very genuine care and concern because of the intimate environment that you typically find at a private school. We're not looking for quantity. We're really focused on the quality of the experience. So I definitely always say that about private education in general, is they're typically not trying to fill seats. It's more about the person that's in the seat that we're really, really concerned about.
Gotcha.
And I can just add a couple other things too. Aside from the small class sizes, the liberal arts in general, and Bob kind of touched on this a little bit, is being able to explore lots of different disciplines. So you end up with this really well-rounded education. You're not just pigeonholing yourself into one very specific major, which in turn helps develop a lot of different skills that are going to help you in life and no matter where you end up. So you're graduating with critical thinking skills, presentation skills, people skills, all of the things that are going to be important when it comes to your career. So leading on then to that point too, we've heard and studies are showing that employers look for resumes from students that are graduating from private liberal arts colleges because they know they have those skills rather than just the great education. So I think that's another point too. I think small class size is always the go-to answer, but thinking about then how it transfers into your career. One other point too, and I know we're going to get into a lot of this a little bit later on, but private schools typically tend to have much higher scholarship opportunities. And so that's another thing to consider when you're looking at private schools. And I won't talk too much because I know we're going to dive into that.
You're fine. So Brooke, maybe though you can touch on, because you kept saying like the private college. So what's the difference between a private and public? So now we're talking about public being large. What's the difference then between a private and a public school? What separates you guys from the other public universities?
The biggest difference is the way that they're funded, right? So public colleges and universities are usually funded by the state. And so typically with their tuition structure, it's going to be a much lower cost than what a private school is going to be. Private schools are funded by donations, and it's a non-profit, literally. So they're raising the funds to be able to put together this school and this education package for you, basically. So because of the way that the tuition is structured and the way that the school is funded, the scholarship packages and the financial aid packages are completely different as well. So while it may be a lot less of a sticker price to go to UF or FSU, you might get a pretty substantial scholarship and financial aid package from Rollins that will bring that cost down to be pretty much similar to what it would cost to go to one of those institutions. So primarily the difference is the way that they're funded. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in.
I hate to use the comparison, but I always kind of tell families it's one of those where, because we are tuition dependent and endowment dependent, we are very, very focused on the individual and the quality of the experience. When a school is public and they are subsidized by the government or by the state or wherever their funding is coming from, the student experience is not impacting the revenue generated. Typically at a private school, we have to make sure that the student experience is positive, because the tuition is potentially paying our faculty and keeping the university open. So if you kind of consider it almost like shopping at a mom and pop versus shopping at maybe a larger chain, the experience of each and every individual is extremely meaningful to us. And we know that you do have choice. I think, what did they say? There's 6,100, private colleges and universities in the country. So being aware of that choice and knowing that you have that ability to choose between schools, we really want to focus on providing an experience that we consider to be a superior experience. So again, not in any way diminishing, the public state system is incredible. We have great ranked schools, especially in the state of Florida, but the experience of the individual, knowing that the revenue generated from tuition and from the gifts that we receive from alumni and donors directly impacts the success of the school, ultimately ensures that our focus is on the right thing. We're always focused on the experience and the individual.
Real quick, I just want to add something on top of all that. Is I think as private schools, we want everybody to graduate. Retention wise, we do all sorts of things to make sure we keep our students. We don't want to see students, oh, we don't care, we got 35,000, doesn't matter to us. With us, we do care. And I think that's a big difference, because a student that we can save is not one we have to go out and re-recruit the following year. So I think you're going to find a lot of support academically for students, whether you want it or not. I think you'll find that.
Great.
Well, I thank you for answering those, because we have so many students that are constantly juggling between the two, trying to figure out, okay, which one would be best. And of course, they see the price tag and they get a little nervous. But there are some other schools that they see the price tag on and they get really nervous about, but it seems so easy to get to them. So I'm referring to some of those that we see on TV, and since they're not in our state, I'm going to just say names like University of Phoenix or Southampton University. I believe they consider themselves a profit or not. I don't know. What's the difference between the nonprofit and the for-profit universities? Again, I know that they will say that they're better than you guys because of the access to their schools, but can you guys give us a little information about that?
I think one thing you may want to check on is accreditation. Some of these schools, you may find it difficult to get into graduate school after attending a college that is for profit. Are they regionally accredited? I think that's huge. Placement rate of graduates. What's your debt versus what's your ability to earn when you come out of there? Those are all questions you need to ask, and that's very easily, you can look that up online. iPads, there's certain areas or places you can go to look up data on colleges. But I think that's the number one reason. When somebody's for profit, you got to keep that in mind. Again, we all have to maintain budgets, but if your primary goal is profit, that's a whole lot different than developing scholars for a world. I mean, two different mission statements altogether. I'll let somebody else chime in on that.
Yeah, Bob, that's exactly right. The for-profit, the way it works is literally the only funding that they have is your tuition dollars. So it's really important to tread lightly when you're looking at for-profit colleges for a lot of reasons. But Victoria beautifully explained kind of the education and the experience you're going to get based on what type of university or college you decide on. With for-profit, it's more of like a business interaction. And with nonprofit, it's more, with nonprofit, we're required to take your tuition dollars and put it directly back into your education experience. So like Victoria said, that might help pay for the outstanding faculty that you're getting, or the facilities on campus that you take your classes in. So we're required to put that right back into your education. For profit, that's not a requirement. So that's why a lot of them are online, and you're able to do it completely online from anywhere in the world. There are some great for-profit institutions, but like Bob said, just do your research, be very careful, look for regionally accredited institutions, because it's going to be real hard to transfer any credits if you're going to a nationally accredited for-profit college. So I guess that's proceed with caution. That's my warning.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you said that, because we definitely have a lot of students, they hear a name, you know, they're being recruited by these for-profit universities or colleges, and
They see
they
the
just don't fully
commercials,
understand. The commercials, exactly.
you know, and they kind of compare like the prices for some of the private universities to them, and they think, oh, this will be so easy. So I'm so happy that you guys were able to touch on that.
Yeah, and you've touched a little bit on why the price tag for private colleges is so expensive. I mean, it is a little overwhelming when a student looks at the price tag of your private colleges and then looks at maybe a public university. But Victoria, I know you touched a little bit on it before with paying for the professors and stuff. Could you talk a little bit more about why private colleges are so expensive?
Yeah. And it's actually a twofold answer, because there's a why the price tag is the way that it is, but then it's also understanding that because of endowments, because of, you know, gifts that the university receives from alumni that are extremely successful, it's pretty rare for a student to pay the price that they see directly on the website. And I say that because we do have endowments that we use specifically for scholarships and to make the university affordable for students. You know, one thing that I love is that at a private school, there's much more of a holistic, typically admissions process. So we can look individually at students and really kind of allocate funding based on individual situations. Like we tend to have a lot of programs that are dedicated to, you know, higher need families, and that funding, we have the ability to move it. Whereas in typically a public setting, you meet this criteria, either you get it or you don't, and there's very, very hard lines. So typically the price tag you see is taking into consideration the fact that it is a much smaller classroom. You know, when you have 400 people in an auditorium, yes, you can, it's kind of like shopping in bulk. It's going to Costco. We can lower the price per item, which is why you tend to see that lower cost at schools that have a much, much higher enrollment volume. Again, there's more of a seat filling, and they're also subsidized or receiving additional funding from state, from, you know, your tax revenue. At a smaller school, we are using the tuition revenue and the gifts of our donors to make the education, to be presenting that. So I typically tell students, and I can't speak for, you know, all the schools on the panel, but when you apply to Stetson, we're automatically evaluating for merit-based scholarships. And then when you file a FAFSA, when you file a CSS profile, we are then doing a second level of evaluation to offer need-based programs. You know, something that surprises a lot of people, they see our price tag, and then I tell them, well, did you know 40% of our students are Pell Grant eligible? Meaning 40% of our students are classified as high need, and yet the tuition is affordable to them. We bring it down to a level that works because of endowments and grants that we're able to offer. So I think people are surprised by that, because a lot of times, especially with the state programs, if you don't meet very specific academic criteria, regardless of the family's need, there is a blockage where you can't get in. It's not actually accessible. So that is something that at a private school, that ability to holistically review an application and see the student for their individuality and not just a series of numbers allows us to make things significantly more affordable than students imagine. So my golden rule is, you know, the tuition you see on the website, we're transparent. Most schools publish their tuition. It's typically not the out-of-pocket that the student's paying once everything is evaluated.
And that's what we always tell students is go ahead, don't just take the sticker price, go ahead, apply, see if you can get the funding. See that the private colleges have a lot of different types of funding that they can give you. So please just apply to the school and then, you know, kind of see where the money can come from after that. Bob, was there something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, the big question they need to ask is, what are your costs? And Victoria touched on this beautifully. It's what's my out of pocket going to be?
Mhm.
Oh, you don't accept Bright Futures. You don't accept the need, you don't accept Pell. We keep people having tell us what we don't accept when we really do accept all this stuff. The E grant from the state of Florida helps pay as well for students attending private universities. It's huge there. So, again, it's a lot of the times they see the sticker price and, oh, I can't afford that. Well, nobody from Florida pays the sticker price.
Yeah.
I tell you, just with everything that's offered from the state right alone, on top of our scholarships and grants, I mean, people don't even realize you can use Florida prepaid at a private college as well. So again, FAFSA, fill it out, maximize your aid. I know I'm preaching to the choir today. FAFSA, there, I said it 4 times.
Thank you, Bob.
If you don't mind, I'd love to add one comment though. And I say this again from my own experience and from needing to transfer schools. Don't under invest in yourself as well, because typically if you have Bright Futures, you might have a full ride available to you, a full tuition scholarship to one of the public schools. That was me. And even though I knew when I got there that was not the learning environment I needed to be successful, I was so concerned about it's free, that I ended up almost losing my Bright Futures scholarship because academically it was not meeting me where I needed. I'm an eye contact person. If you're not making eye contact with me, I'm not invested. And for me, that particular environment did not meet me at the level I needed. And I ended up transferring and going to a much smaller. If you get to an environment and feel like, wow, I'm a number, I'm not getting the individual attention I need, then it doesn't matter if it's free. If you're not going to graduate, if you're not going to stay and be successful, then it doesn't matter. Then it's still expensive, because if you lose your Bright Futures, if you lose some of those programs or lose eligibility, then you're in a situation where now it is difficult. Now it is financially difficult. So I will tell students, and that's actually, again, one of the main reasons why I really went into higher education. I was so focused on making it as cheap as possible that I stopped paying attention to what I needed. And that is really, really, really important. You have to recognize your value and to know that if it means it's a little bit of a monthly payment, if it means that it's something your family, you're making a small investment, the return on that as you are successful, graduate, go out into the industry, that is what you need to think about, because the ROI is there when you're getting met at the level that you.
All right. So we've talked about, really quickly, just to recap for those out there, FAFSA, the federal aid application that students need to fill out. And then what some of you were talking about with the Bright Futures Scholarship and the EASE grant, which you need to fill out the Florida financial aid application as well. So I just wanted to clarify for parents and students out there that you have to fill out one application as a senior after October 1st for the FAFSA, and then one application for the Florida financial aid application, which is for the EASE grant and Bright Futures.
Which is awesome. I love that you guys look for that money to help out the kids, because, yes, that the price tag, when they look at it at first, like, oh my gosh. But what I've seen with a lot of our students, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, once they apply, you accept them, then you guys will look for what kind of finances are available for them and let them know what they qualify for. Is that true for everybody? I see all the heads nodding. I'm like, great. And for a lot of you students out there, FAFSA right now, if you haven't done it, do it. Don't wait. We're pushing that. So thank you, Bob. You're right on it with us. We're all pushing it. Get the FAFSA done. Now, one of the things that I know I just mentioned, applying. A lot of our students are not quite sure when to apply for school. So of course you have early decision, you have early action, you have the regular decision. I'm going to point this to Victoria. Victoria, can you help them out? When should these kids apply?
And what do all those words mean?
Yes.
Why are there
Yes.
so many
So
different words?
that's what's so confusing is every school could have its own terminology and every school may have its own decision plans and things that they operate under. Stetson's unique because everything you named we have. We actually have early decision, early action, regular decision, and rolling admissions. So I just want to briefly explain the difference. So early decision is telling the school, you are my number one choice. And if I am accepted, I am committing to coming. Early decision is a commitment. You are actually only allowed to apply to one ED school because it is going into a commitment with that school that if you are admitted, you are going to come. So they give you typically priority consideration. They might look at you for additional scholarships. I know at Stetson, if you're admitted under early decision, you actually get early access to class registration. There's a lot of benefits because you've essentially told us, I bleed green, you're my number one school. So we do put extra priority on reviewing those applicants. Early action is a non-binding agreement, but it does for most schools mean that you get evaluated early. So typically if you are, let's say you've narrowed it down to your top 5 schools, maybe you're applying to 10, but your top 5, if they offer early action, take advantage of it because typically it means still a faster response time. They're not going to hold the decision till later in the spring. And you might still be considered for extra programs that they have because you're being evaluated early in the pool. Regular decision is what a lot of schools operate under. That is just the general pool. It doesn't matter if we're your number 1, your number 10, the bottom of your list. It just means you're being evaluated with the general pool of students, and typically decisions are released on a very specific day. I know a lot of the public university systems do regular decision. They tend to release in early March. Rolling, which is what we go to after those 3 pools, is where we continue to review applications as they come in and release decisions as they're evaluated. So typically, once we start looking at rolling, which is after the regular decision pool releases, that's typically in March, and it means about a 1 or 2 week response time. Now, I can't speak for all schools that operate under rolling. For us, it is on an as available basis. So like, for example, right now we are still accepting rolling admissions applications. We are very close to hitting our cap for our class. We're having an event today to celebrate accepted students. So as soon as we hit capacity, we will cut off rolling. Other schools do rolling the entire time. So it's really based on the institution. The main thing to pay attention to though, is if it is an early decision, you need to understand that's binding. And you need to read the paperwork. And I say that because with a lot of schools with early decision, if you apply to multiple colleges under early decision and they find out about it, you can actually have your admissions revoked because you basically essentially promised multiple schools that you're coming and they may have given you priority consideration over another student. So it's very important with early decision, just read it, make sure it is your number 1 choice. If that's where you want to go, select it, but you can only do it for 1 school.
Can they back out though financially? Just really quickly, just to add in, and maybe Brooke, maybe if you want to touch really quickly, I know we're closing up. If a student does early decision, can they get out of the contract if they don't have a big enough financial aid package, or do they have to know for certain that they can afford to go to your school before they do ED?
Yeah, it's a good question. And Rollins only offers early decision and regular decision. So at Rollins, we do allow families to back out of the contract if it comes down to it and finances just aren't going to work out. We will have you meet with our financial aid team, try every single route possible. And if you still decide, if we decide together that this is just not going to work out, we're never going to hold somebody to a contract that would be uncomfortable for anyone, that they won't be able to deliver on later on. So yes, we allow it. I do want to just put it out there that I encourage you to ask the school that you're planning to apply early decision to about that, because I don't know that all colleges and universities operate that way, but Rollins for sure does. So just ask your counselor at whatever the college is you're looking at for early decision.
And just to let you know, with us, if you do apply early decision, we do require you to do the FAFSA CSS profile because we don't want to admit you under early decision if we feel like there might be a financial constraint. That being said, Stetson does commit to our early decision students to meet full need. you have to you have to do the FAFSA. You can't just say, I need money. We need to see the FAFSA and the CSS profile to better understand the situation. But that is one of the perks of early decision with us, is if there is a financial need and you are admitted under early decision, we will step up to meet it, which is why it's very rare for a student to break early decision, because if it is a financial constraint, chances are we're meeting them at that level. Now, again, it does require the FAFSA and CSS profile, because we need to understand, the challenge with the FAFSA is that it's 2 years ago tax information. Maybe your family has gone through financial struggles as a result of COVID. The CSS profile has a real-time snapshot. So it does let us know if anything's changed, so that we can award additional aid based on that. So I will say that is true. Most schools, if there's a true demonstrated need that the school can't meet, a lot of schools do release from ED when it's proven. But in order for us to consider you under ED, we want to have that disclosed up front. And then that way, if we can't meet it, we won't bind you. We will actually put you back into an early action pool, so that you have time to do your research, maybe find an outside scholarship. So if the need is too great and we cannot for some reason meet the difference, then we won't put you in ED. We will actually transfer you to an early action status.
Real quick about, I know we're getting close on time, but real quick about the admissions process. I know a lot of our colleagues, we all belong to a group called PCUF, Private Colleges and Universities of Florida. There's about 22 of us. And I know for the vast majority of us, we're all assigned a particular area of a territory. I mean, for example, I know mine's Central and North Florida, so I handle all the applications that come in from there. So the nice part, this is another private school benefit, is you get to know your admissions person rather easily. Not every school, but at our school, I pretty much am the one reviewing your application. So you don't have to search for 12 people that are in a dark room making yes or no decisions about the rest of your life. Your admissions committee's name is Bob. So that being said, I mean, even some big schools will have somebody just assigned. I know my niece went to Ohio State and they had somebody assigned just for the New Jersey students where she was from. So that's another thing. Get to know who your admissions counselor is at whatever institution you're applying to. But the private schools, you're going to find the admissions counselors are very easy to get a hold of. If you're not talking to us, we'll be talking to you.
Perfect.
I absolutely love that. You guys, this has been really great. I am so thankful that you all agreed to join us today, because, again, for those of you that may not be from the area in Central Florida, these are some of the schools that, we have tons of kids asking about and wanting to go to school there. And I've had the honor to go on to the campuses of Rollins and Stetson. Bob, I'm coming for you.
I know, me too.
And it is spring break time. I may go out there and start the party a little late, but I can still hang. With that being said, we're gonna wrap things up, because we know there's so much more that we can talk about, but we don't want to kill you guys. So we'll start with Bob with this one. Is there anything that you wanna say to some of the kids that are starting their research right now and trying to make some decisions? And if there's anything big or any events that you'd like to share with us, go for it.
Okay, there's a book out there called Do What You Love and the Money Will Follow. Don't let anybody tell you what kind of major you should or shouldn't go into. You got to be passionate about what you do, because nothing great ever happens without passion. So that being said, do some research on majors. There's an exam called Myers-Briggs you can take. It may match up your personality with some kind of careers that you're going to do. Those are probably the biggest things I can say, is because there's a lot of people that think they want to be a computer science major, and they're depressed after taking their first computer science class. So, again, find something you're passionate about, and you can do it two ways: front to back or back to front. Front to back would be, these are the classes I like in high school, what majors and what careers are attached to. That's front to back. Back to front would be, I want to be an astronaut, let's say. What majors do I need to take to get to be an astronaut? But, only you know you. So that would be the one thing I would say. And I think you're going to find private schools probably cater a lot better in those kinds of decisions and things. In fact, we all know each other. When I'm at college fairs, if I don't have a major, I'll refer them to Brooke or Victoria or Joe over at Florida Southern or whoever, we all kind of know each other. And, you know, we kind of look out for each other as well. So those are things I'd recommend.
Awesome. Victoria, want to take it?
Yeah. So here's the thing. It's okay to not know what you want. It's totally normal. Like I said, 70% of students change majors. So my favorite thing is when somebody's like, I'm going to do this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, it might change. College has a tendency to do that. Roll with those changes, embrace them. College, if you're doing it right, should be uncomfortable at points, and that's a good thing. It means that you're exploring, it means that you're growing. And I would say that the same thing goes with the college search process. Ask questions, go with gut instincts, you know, really take the time. And don't be afraid. You know, at the end of the day, if you go like I did, I went to a school, realized it was not my choice. It is not a life sentence, guys. You can transfer, you can, you know, of course we want you to find your home. We want you to find your home day one, but please don't think that this is an end all be all journey. You can pivot. It is normal. It is natural. And that's what I tell families is sometimes you put too much pressure on yourself to make a lot of really major decisions in a short period of time. Know that we're working on your schedule. If you need to talk to us 100 times, there is a family that I have worked with since their son was a sophomore, and he started another school and just transferred here. So I've been working with this one family alone for 3 years, and that's okay. Everyone has their own journey, and it's true. You know what Bob said, we all work together. So I'll talk to a student and I'll say, you know what? I think maybe Rollins might be a great choice for you based on X, Y, and Z. And they do the same thing with us. So please know that, you know, that is something at the end of the day, we care about the individual's success. And I will celebrate with a student if they're going to Rollins, if they're going to Florida Tech, yay, that's your home. Great. I'm glad you found your home. So please know that that's at the end of the day, really what we care about.
Brooke, take it home.
All right, I know we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but I just want to reiterate how important it is to visit the campus in any capacity. And once you've narrowed it down to maybe your top 3, 4 schools, do all of the other stuff too. So you've done a tour, now maybe ask to shadow a class or meet with a professor or have lunch with a current student. Do all of those things, everything you possibly can that's offered to you, because the more and more you get a feel for the school, you'll really get a sense of, is this the right fit for me? And again, if you can't do it in person, do it virtually.
Yet another thing that we can be thankful for COVID, for introducing Zoom and having you guys join us today this way.
Yes,
Thank you so much for coming. And Nicole, any last words?
No, I'm just so happy that you all came out. I learned a lot. I'm sure everyone else has learned a lot. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank everyone for watching Spill the Tea. If you like us, go ahead and subscribe, press like, and of course, research your schools. Check out Rollins, Stetson, FIT. They're great schools with some great people. Thank you guys. Take care.
Thank you.